Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. We're always searching for new ways to empower women. But what if the real game changer is entrepreneurship itself? On today's show, we'll uncover how the landscape for women entrepreneurs has transformed dramatically over the past 5 years, opening doors like never before. Our guest specializes in helping women build thriving service-based businesses, and she'll reveal why this sector is bursting with potential for growth, innovation, and true empowerment. I'm joined by Nicole Troster, founder and CEO of Coeurage Labs. Nicole, welcome to Empowered. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Elizabeth. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy that you're here too. So let's begin. For our viewers who are just meeting you, can you share a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to focus on helping women in service-based businesses scale?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was very much inspired by my mother. She was the first female lawyer in the biggest commercial bank in Brazil. And when she immigrated to Canada, unfortunately, her credentials weren't recognized. So, she had to find a way to help support the family. So she ended up buying a small hospitality business and running that successfully for 34 years. But you can imagine at the start, it was really, really difficult. She did a lot of trial and error and, fumbled her way through, especially at the beginning. So I devoted my career to helping entrepreneurs like my mother. And one of the things that I'm really, really proud of is the work that I did in founding an accelerator, a national accelerator for women entrepreneurs called Y Space Ella, where I worked to empower 450 women across the country, giving them access to entrepreneurship education, networking, community. And, I learned a lot about working with women. And, I developed a proven framework, which I'm using in my company, Coeurage Labs, today to help women with service-based businesses scale.
So from your perspective, how can entrepreneurship serve as a powerful tool for the empowerment of women?
Yeah, that's a great question. And really, entrepreneurship is very unique in the sense that it gives women an opportunity to create their own opportunities and to create things like autonomy, flexibility, and, for them to explore perhaps skill sets that they might not have otherwise explored. So entrepreneurship gives them access to all of these things. And it can be a really, really important tool, especially if women don't have other options. When we think about the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, a lot of women were creating their jobs at that time. And when we find that, the economy gets tougher, we see a lot of women breaking out into entrepreneurship and, again, creating their own opportunities.
So what are some significant ways this ecosystem has evolved or shifted for women entrepreneurs, specifically over the last 5 years?
So we've seen a huge influx of programming and supports available for women in the last 5 years. And that's really in part because of the federal government and their women's entrepreneurship strategy. And, it's been a great, great resource to women. But one of the things that we've also seen in the last year or so is basically a walking away from, either government supports or institutional supports for women and diverse entrepreneurs. So what I'm seeing is a lot of women who are turning to private sector support to get access to the accountability, the education, the network, the community, all of the things that are very, very important for women scaling their businesses. And they need spaces to access those things in order to grow, to 500,000 and beyond.
So you work specifically with women in service-based businesses. What is it about this sector that you find particularly ripe for growth and empowerment for women?
Well, at a time where we see a lot of economic uncertainty and a lot of erosion of trust in leadership, I think women in particular, they tend to open service-based businesses because, they might have started in a corporate career, they have 5, 10, 15 years experience, and then they kind of open up their own business in the same sector, using the network that they know and the knowledge that they have. And one thing that we know about women is that they're great at building relationships, fostering relationships. And now more than ever, because of those things that I talked about, the erosion of trust and really the amount of uncertainty that we're seeing, women who have service-based businesses bring something unique to the table in terms of being able to foster those relationships and make sure that those can withstand what we're seeing in terms of the economy and everything else.
So when we come back from commercial, we're going to talk about the ultimate impact that you aim to create in the lives and businesses of the women that you work with. So, ladies, don't go away. We'll be right back with more of entrepreneurship. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's topic is empowering women through entrepreneurship. Now, Nicole, what is the ultimate impact you aim to create in the lives and businesses of the women that you work with?
Well, if you ask anybody who I've worked with, they'll tell you that, for me, it's very, very highly personal work that I do. I care about each one of the clients that I work with. And really what I'm trying to achieve is to help give women clarity and confidence. And what that really means is, what does it take for me to get from here to where I want to go? Like, what are the actual steps? So what we do is we kind of break things down. Who is your target audience? And, if you look at the different functional areas of your business, like sales, marketing, operations, finance, how does each one of those functional areas connect with the target customer? And, making sure that there's cohesiveness in terms of how you set up the business, how all the processes are running, how all the resources are being used within the business to create, again, a step-by-step roadmap of how you're going to get from here to where you want to go, 500,000 and beyond.
So, how does achieving significant business success contribute to a woman's overall sense of empowerment and agency?
That's such a great question. And I think there's really two things that it creates is one, financial independence. And, my mom told me from a very, very, very young age, given her experience in immigrating to Canada, but also being a single mom, that a woman has to be financially independent. So when I work with women to create sustainable businesses, that's a huge part of being financially independent, making sure that they can make their own money to support themselves and maybe, other family members and what have you, but making sure that they're in a position to make decisions that are best for them because they're coming from a secure financial place to do so is really, really important. And there's a freedom that stems from being able to be in that position. Part of it is time freedom, for example, having more time because you've hired more people in the business. So you don't have to be there managing every single activity or task, but you can kind of pull away because, you're empowered to do so. Or even location freedom. For some of the entrepreneurs that I work with, one in particular, she spends a month away in Europe every single summer. And she's able to do that because she is financially independent, because she has taken the time, invested the time in mapping out the processes, understanding the steps, and growing the business to that extent.
And that's really important, because as women, we've always want to be financially secure. We always want to have the freedom to do things that we would like to do outside of the workforce. And I think what you're doing is really important because it is giving women the ability to achieve their financial freedom. And as women, women look to scale and achieve significant growth. What are some of the key initial shifts in mindset and approach that you've observed as being crucial to this?
It's interesting because when I started my own journey, I didn't realize how important mindset is to being able to accomplish big, lofty goals and to something like entrepreneurship. But inherently, I've learned that, I've understood that, and now I work very closely with my clients, on that really important mindset shift because there is something that happens when you are growing to that extent and setting the business up for that kind of success. And for me, I recently saw a talk where I saw an entrepreneur that talked about the idea of betting on ourselves. And I think that is a mindset shift. Like we believe in other people, we believe in our loved ones, we root them on, cheerlead them. But for ourselves, we don't do that. So I think really the best way that I can kind of explain it is for us to bet on ourselves and to make the investments and from a monetary perspective, from a resource perspective, to make sure that we can grow the business, that we have the knowledge, that we have the mindset to do those things. Because at the end of the day, we're capable of doing so. We just need to bring a couple of things into the equation to help us get there.
And I love the fact that you talk about betting on ourselves because as women, we put our partners first, we put our children first, we put our jobs first. And when it comes to us, we're depleted. We don't have the energy for ourselves. We don't have that mindset for ourselves. And I think it's important that you said, you know what, we need to bet on ourselves. I'm betting on me. And in order for us to get to that next level in a very sane way, in a very mental health proper type of way, I think we do need to step back and take some time for ourselves and bet on ourselves. And right now, it's time to go for a commercial break. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's topic is empowering women through entrepreneurship. And Nicole, you help women scale beyond the $500,000 mark. What does achieving this level of growth typically mean for your clients, both professionally and personally?
So we've talked about the concept of freedom. We've talked about confidence and how important some of these things are, but it's also things that are beyond that. It allows them to play in a leadership role that, for many of them, they may not have played in that role before. It allows them to bring in trusted people into the organization and to take that vision that they had in their head and implement it beyond their wildest dreams. And that does something to somebody far beyond confidence. That's something that somebody can never take away from you when you achieve things like that. It also gives a sense of legacy in the sense that you're building things that people around you can see, and things that you're leaving behind in a certain sense. So it gives that sense of legacy, and that far outlives the woman in that sense as well. So there are things that are both tangible and intangible that are incredibly important when we're thinking about scaling that to that degree, but also like incredible benefits that go far beyond money and all the rest of it.
I love that. Can you touch upon one or two key foundational elements that are crucial for sustainable growth in a service-based business?
Yeah, so I think having clarity, I've talked a lot about clarity, but like having a specific roadmap for growth is what I mean when I say clarity, like understanding what is the steps A to Z to get there. And sometimes it's not always clear in terms of like where you want to go, how you're going to get there, but like working with either a coach or, for example, a community and accountability buddy, these are all resources that can help us kind of map those things out. So having absolute clarity, but also having the right people. Service-based businesses are all about people and relationships. And if you don't have the right people to help you expand your business, they're just there perhaps for a paycheck. They're not invested in the growth of the business. They're not invested in the overall vision of the founder. Then that can detract from the growth and from the trajectory of the business. Really, you want people who are good at their jobs, who are experienced, who are invested in the mission and the vision, who want to contribute in ways just beyond, fulfilling the tasks that are asked of them. And, having people like that can help you like achieve anything essentially. So the people really are at the heart of the business, I would say.
Speaking of the heart of the business, anybody, whether you're an entrepreneur or you work for a corporation, networking is a major part of your growth in your career. And we've talked about that here many, many times. And networking is really important, yet many women don't like to do it. So what role does networking and building connections play in a woman's journey to scaling her business?
That's such a great question as well. And I think part of it is we as women, we think that networking, it's a dirty word. It's one of those things that we almost cringe inside when we hear the word networking. But at the end of the day, networking is about being curious about other people. And if you approach it like that, and you approach it from a perspective that, you know, what value can I deliver to this other person? You know, based on the curiosity, based on asking them questions about themselves. What are they interested in? What problems are they facing? And helping to connect the dots in that way, it seems much more approachable and easier to kind of put ourselves out there to do the networking. And in terms of your question, networking is just so important, especially in a service-based business context, because again, it's all about relationships. So we can leverage relationships that we have in order to give us things like visibility, in order to give us things like clarity, and in order to give us things like confidence. There are a whole host of reasons why we need to have conversations about the work that we're doing and the problems that we're solving for other people so that we can get the help that we need. Because that as women, so oftentimes we don't ask for the help that we need. And so that's part of those conversations that we should be having when we are quote unquote networking.
Well, I mean, that's how you and I met. You and I were speaking at an International Women's Day event. And, there were networking sessions. We came up to each other, spoke to each other. So, and we were curious about each other as well. I wanted to know about you. You wanted to know about me. And here we are. You're on the show. And so I think networking and asking questions is really, really important when it comes to personal growth and your professional growth. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. I'm joined by Nicole Troster, founder and CEO of Coeurage Labs. Today's topic is empowering women through entrepreneurship. So, Nicole, what are some common fears or limiting beliefs you encounter when working with women who are on the cusp of significant growth?
I think the biggest fear that I've come across in working with my clients is really the capacity to handle something. How am I going to manage everything that I have on my plate? And I had one client, I will never forget her. She was an HR consultant. It's obvious that she wanted to grow her business, but there was a lot of hesitation and a lot of fear and doubt. And we had to work through all of those things because really she was coming from the mindset like, how am I going to manage, and asking those types of questions. And really it required a shift in like, how am I going to lead this change kind of thing. And that allowed her to kind of envision herself in a CEO role as opposed to a service provider role. It allowed her to kind of stop thinking small and really focus on what she could achieve if she was leading and she had more resources and people to help her achieve her vision.
And, that's the problem, because as women, we are, we've got so much negativity in our head. It actually brings us down and doesn't let us lead forward. So how do you help your clients maintain a sense of balance and well-being as they navigate the demands of scaling their businesses?
Again, another great question. And I think for women, it's really easy to get out of balance for everything that we have on our plates. And I have so many conversations. I had a conversation with one of my clients, Santa, last week about the idea that you have to schedule time for things other than the business. Schedule time with family, schedule time with friends, schedule time to go to the gym, because we know that if we do not schedule these things, they don't happen, they don't get done. And what's interesting is, every single time I recommend to my clients that they do that and they go ahead and they do that and they report back, what I find is that they are more committed to the business when they come back because they've had that psychological break. They're more creative. They are in better moods. They fully show up both in the personal realm because they have the time to do so, and then also in the professional realm. So it benefits everyone, in their lives as well as them in a huge, huge way.
Yeah, my calendar is my best friend. I schedule everything, and I probably am guilty of overscheduling a lot, which I need to scale back on. For the women watching today who feel stuck or uncertain about how to take those next steps in scaling their business, what is some actionable piece of advice that you can offer them right now?
Don't go it alone. I think, again, we as women are terrible at asking for help, but really that help is what's going to get you to the next level. Whether, again, it's working with a coach or with a women's group or an accountability buddy or anything that's going to give you that support that you need to kind of keep going. I would really, really encourage you to go out there, seek help. Don't be afraid, and don't be afraid of your own potential.
So, Nicole, we've got 1 minute left, and I know that a lot of women struggle with the imposter syndrome. What do you say to your clients when they feel that they can't go forward? You know that they can, but they've got that negativity dancing on their brain.
I think one of the things that I do that's really, really effective is, visualization techniques. When we visualize the things that we want and what it's going to feel like when we get there. A lot of times when we talk about visualization, we just think about the image at the finish line. We don't think about, like, again, what are the feelings? How is this going to feel? How is this going to change my life to have achieved this thing? And once we start to kind of put all the senses around what it would mean, then it becomes a lot more tangible. We can really feel it, and then we work more to achieve those things. And all of that helps to reduce the negativity and the voice inside of our head that's telling us that we can't do it. The other thing that I talked about was the concept of having a cheerleader in your corner, like making sure that you surround yourself with people who are going to talk about what that future state is going to be like for you, so that you can hear it from other people as well, is absolutely key to overcoming the imposter syndrome. It's
Thank you so much,
possible.
Nicole. Nicole's words of wisdom for you today are entrepreneurship is an incredible empowerment tool for women. But remember, you don't have to go it alone. Seek out experts and a supportive community to accelerate your journey, celebrate the wins, and ease the loneliness. Together, you'll amplify your growth and build sustainable success. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm here to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Bye for now.